Hello, everybody. It has been a very long time. I know my audio is not so great. I'm going to get to that. This is the mental health check-in, and it's our mental health check-in. So I'm going to be talking a little bit here about my mental health, but I want you to think about your mental health and what's been going on in your life. How have you been doing, today, yesterday, this week? What's been going on for the month for you? Check in. Like, how does your body feel? How have you been feeling emotionally? What's your mood been like? Are there any pressures that are going on right now? Or maybe there's some really good things going on in your life right now, and that's affecting your mood. Have you been eating? Have you been hydrating? All that kind of stuff is important to think about. So as I sit here and talk about what's been going on for me, think about what's been going on for you. What has been going on for you? Leave it in the comments if you feel like it. Okay, so clearly I have been having trouble since the beginning of 2019 sitting down and making videos, and I am going to get to why that is and all that stuff towards the end. But I want to talk today about something that happened that affected my mental health recently. It only really affected it for a day or two, but I think it's relevant to talk about because it has to do with PTSD and triggers, and I'm not going to get into details. It's not even something that really would be triggering for most people, but I want to talk about that. So something that happened recently was something minor, something that most people would not think of as a trigger, set me off, specifically because it was something that was repeated over and over and over again in a short period of time. So I think we need to talk about this. Sometimes when we talk about PTSD, we assume like somebody goes from 0 to 100 right away, and that's definitely true. I have definitely had those moments. I'm sure maybe some of you out there have as well, but sometimes it's not always like that. I've had a lot of practice throughout the years on recognizing when I'm feeling a little bit triggered and recognizing when things maybe aren't going so well internally. So I know like this is a triggering position for me. This is a triggering spot. And I try to be aware of it, and I try to monitor and self-soothe and like fix the problem as best I can in the moment. But in this particular instance, I wasn't really able to do that. It just kept compounding and compounding. And so my intensity level did go up to 100 or so, but it got there very slowly and gradually. So I think when we're talking about triggers and PTSD, maybe we should keep that in mind sometimes. So who out there has had this experience where you either go from 0 to 100, or maybe you go from like 0 to 10 to 20 to 30 and it gets up to 100? I want to know because I'm sure I'm not the only person, right? So let me know. So what happened here? I got to a place where I was pretty close to 100. I was up there, and the situation ended. The thing that originally triggered me, it was done, it was over, but I couldn't get out of it, and I kind of said to myself, okay, so like, what is this? I'm not fighting. We have that fight, flight, or freeze thing. I'm not fighting right now. I'm not fleeing. I think I'm frozen. Like, I think I'm stuck here, frozen. And I was trying to explain it to a friend. And the friend was kind of saying something like we all love to hear. And I know that this was not their intention, but the way that it was coming across to me was kind of like, well, you need to take your mind off of it. You need to like let it go, basically is what they were saying. And that is helpful advice sometimes, and that can be good, like maybe when your intensity is a little bit lower, but I don't even think they realized that my intensity was so high. So that was not going to work for me. And I was actually really glad that they started to have this conversation with me, because I realized in the middle of it something very important about freezing. And I want to relay this to you because I think it's a way that I've coped, and I never really, I don't know, it never was so poignant and obvious to me as this time. If you've ever been frozen, think about this. All right, so my friend was trying to kind of say to me, like, distract yourself, get away from it, like, move on to something else. And I had been trying to do that a little bit throughout the day when this was going on, and it wasn't really helping that much. But I realized why it wasn't helping. And the reason why it wasn't helping is because when I'm triggered, at least, and you can let me know if this is true for you, my mind is not always in control of everything. My body is in control. And I think that's pretty like basic for PTSD or trauma. And for the record, I'm not diagnosed PTSD or anything right now, but I think it's pretty common that when we have these emotional experiences, sometimes the emotions take over. That system in the body is more prioritized than our rational thinking brain. So I realize like what's going on here is I'm having a very visceral reaction to something, and my fight, flight, or freeze system is going off, and I can't stop it from going off. I know that usually one of the things we try to do to get it to go off is to try to manage it and soothe it and everything, but nothing that I was doing was working, and I was just stuck in freeze. And what I was experiencing, and this was something that I guess I never really felt this way before about, but I was experiencing my body constantly telling me something's wrong, something's not good, something's dangerous, you need to deal with this, you cannot go forward, do something now. And I was just like overwhelmed, frozen, like I don't know what to do. There's literally nothing that I think I can do. Have you ever experienced something like that? I definitely have before. I just didn't have the words for it, you know? When trauma's going on, sometimes our language system also shuts down, and I've never really had a way of articulating it until now. So it was really interesting to me that the body really took over, and I had enough rational mind to realize like, oh, like I really can't do anything. My body is totally in control here. But I did find a way to unfreeze myself, and that's what I want to mention here, because this is part of my mental health check-in, and this is something I need to remember for the future. So the way that I unfroze myself, I realized, you know, like what do you do in general when you're frozen? Like, why is this happening? It's happening because there's no movement, right? You're not doing anything. You're not fighting back. You're not running away. You're just stuck. And so I had to kind of like fight against my own body and say like, I need to move. Not in the physical sense, although it would be wonderful if all I had to do was get up and walk. And I think that's very helpful in a lot of situations. It was just not going to be helpful in this particular situation. I needed to create some kind of movement in the problem that I was having, because the problem is what kept causing the body to ping my brain and tell me something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. So what I did was I came up with, and again, I'm not going to get into specifics, it's not really important, but I came up with a way to find what I needed to find. So I couldn't really do very much about the thing that I was having trouble with. But what I realized is that what I can do, even though I don't know the particular answer I'm looking for, is I can search for how to find the answer, or I can look for other ways that other people have done things. And just that like research mode, I think we've all probably done that. And if you're obsessive, maybe this is not the direction to go in, because it's really easy to get obsessive about these things. I know I've done that in the past. Have you done that in the past? I mindfully, let's put it this way, I mindfully started researching into like, okay, how do other people deal with this problem? And maybe this is like something that brought you to YouTube. I know that many times I have come to YouTube because I've seen that I have a problem and I don't know how to deal with it, and probably somebody out there on YouTube knows how to deal with it. So that's kind of what I did. I looked for like, I already had some resources, to be quite honest. I already had some ideas of like how to deal with this, but I actually needed to like go to those resources and remind myself of some things that I could do to move forward. And it wasn't about fixing my body. It wasn't about distracting myself from what was going on. It was like I needed to feel like I was moving forward, like I had some sense of control over the situation. Now, I didn't need like some kind of like fantasy control over the situation. I didn't need to make myself like feel bigger or better, although maybe that's a good coping strategy for some people for some instances. I just needed to feel like I had the resources to feel resilient to this situation. And once I started moving, I did unfreeze and I did calm down. My body started to regulate and I got back on track to being normal me. So that's how I got unfrozen. And I'm curious if anybody out there has been frozen recently, and what did you do to get out of that situation? For me, I think what I'm going to take away from this is the next time that I recognize that I'm feeling frozen, or I feel that my body keeps telling me there's something wrong and I don't really know what to do with it and I feel stuck, is I'm just going to remember find a way to move forward, not necessarily with my body, not necessarily like getting angry and screaming or anything crazy like that. Not that that's really crazy. That can be acceptable in some situations, but I just needed to find the way to find the answer. I didn't even need to find the answer necessarily. I just needed to feel like I was doing something. So I'm going to remember that for the next time. So again, I want you to think back on your own mental health, and maybe something I've said here has reflected on something that you've done in the past week or month. Now I'm just going to move on to some other stuff that I want to address because I haven't been doing videos in a long time. And this is related to some of the other mental health check-ins I did a couple months ago. You know, I was feeling depressed and I was not productive, and you could say that I'm still not productive, but I have started to become productive. You may have noticed that like the camera angle's a little bit different here. That's on purpose. I have spent a lot of time, a lot of effort rearranging the place where I record, so that hopefully I can have a better experience. Now, right now, clearly this is not the optimal experience. I know my audio is not great. I plan on improving that within the next couple of days. I do have testing to do. But the reason why I'm doing all of this is because I want to get back to that productivity level that I was at. I want to be making a lot of videos. I like doing this. Otherwise, I wouldn't even bother trying. I would have just given up by now and I would never keep you guys updated. So I have been working on fixing this all up so that it starts to look and sound and feel a little bit more professional. I'm quite honest. If I'm honest with you and I'm honest with myself, I don't really know how long it's going to take me to get to that place where I feel like things are good. And I promise you, I'm not being a perfectionist about this. I know it doesn't have to be like amazing, amazing quality, but there is a standard that I'm trying to reach, and I think I can get there. So I'm doing it. And I also have a long-term thing that I'm thinking about, like within a year, maybe getting to a certain place. But I'm keeping all that quiet because too many times I have opened my mouth and said that I'm starting something or I'm going somewhere to do, I'm doing something, and then it just doesn't get done. So for now, we're going to keep it all quiet. But hopefully by the time I record my next video, I would say, I'm just going to say hopefully for now. I would want to say definitely because all the parts should be available. But hopefully I will be all set up and you'll see a little bit of a different experience. It may take me a little while still to get the ball rolling, but we shall see. And I'm looking down right now because there is something that I set up today that, of course, I'm not prepared to show you, but I just want to show you. Okay, here we go. So this is just an example of the possibilities, and I still have to play around of what might be coming in the future. Oh, well, that's not good. Why didn't it work? Okay. Well, clearly we still have more work to do. It kind of worked, right? You see that I turned a little red. Maybe I can get it to go. Let's see. Nope, it's not working. Okay, well, clearly I've got more work to do. Thank you for joining me here in the Mental Health Check-In. Again, this is about you and your mental health. It's not really so much about mine. I want you to reflect on that and hopefully think of some ways that you can improve your own. Thank you for hanging in there with me while I figure all of this out. I know that, you've got other things to do. I'm not the top of your list of priorities, but I'm grateful that you are here and you're willing to spend the time and patience with me while I get this figured out. So I guess that's it. I don't want to make a crazy long video. Thank you, everybody. And I will hopefully be seeing you around more often, maybe in a month or two. That's what I'm going to say for now. Take care, everybody.